I was 74 years old when my wife died, and I thought my life ended with hers. We'd been married for 50 years, half a century of shared meals, shared beds, shared laughs, shared silences. And then she was gone, and I didn't know how to exist in a world where she wasn't. The house felt too big, the silence too loud. Every room held memories that hurt to look at. I was drowning in grief, and I didn't know how to ask for help. But Susie, even dying, even in her last weeks, was still taking care of me. She left me a list, 7 names, 7 strangers, and a final request that would save my life. Before we dive in, have you ever found support in the most unexpected place? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you love stories about grief, community, and discovering that we're never as alone as we think, please subscribe so you don't miss our next one. Now let me tell you about the last gift my wife gave me, and how 7 strangers became family. My name is Samuel Pine, and for the first 6 weeks after Susie died, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. because that's what I'd done for 50 years. I'd make coffee for 2 before remembering I only needed 1 cup. I'd set the table for breakfast with 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 napkins, and then have to put 1 set away. Every routine we'd built together became a reminder that she was gone. Our kids came for the funeral, Jordan from Boston, Anna from Seattle. They stayed for a week, helping with arrangements, sorting through Susie's things, making sure I was eating. Then they left, back to their own lives, their own families. They called every few days, asked if I was okay. I always said yes, I was lying. The truth was, I was barely functioning. I'd go entire days without speaking to another person. I'd eat cereal for dinner, standing at the kitchen counter because sitting at the table alone felt wrong. I'd fall asleep in my chair watching television because our bedroom felt too empty. Susie had been sick for 18 months. Cancer, aggressive, the kind that takes everything. By the end, she'd been in hospice care at home. I'd taken care of her, fed her, bathed her, held her hand through the pain. It had been the hardest thing I'd ever done. But at least I'd had a purpose. At least I'd been needed. Now I had nothing. No one to take care of. No reason to get up in the morning beyond the fact that my body still worked, even though my heart didn't. 2 months after the funeral, I was going through Susie's things, slowly, because I couldn't bear to do it quickly, when I found her journal. She'd kept it during the last 6 months of her life. I'd known she was writing in it, but had never asked to read it. It was hers, private. But now, with her gone, I needed to feel close to her in any way I could. I opened it carefully, expecting to find her thoughts about dying, about leaving me, about regrets or fears or hopes. What I found instead was a list. On the last page of the journal, dated 2 weeks before she died, Susie had written 7 names. Next to each name was an address and a phone number, and at the top of the page, a note in her careful handwriting. Sam. These are people who understand. They're waiting, even if they don't know it yet. Please find them. I love you. Always. Sue. I stared at the page, trying to understand. The names meant nothing to me. I didn't recognize a single one. Who were these people? How did Susie know them? I flipped back through the journal, looking for answers. And I found them. In the months before she died, while I'd been focused on her care, Susie had been doing something I'd never known about. She'd been reading the obituaries. Not morbidly, but purposefully. Looking for something specific. She'd been looking for recent widows and widowers. When she found one, someone whose spouse had died in the last year, someone who seemed to be alone, someone whose obituary mentioned no services by request or donations instead of flowers, code for grief too private to share publicly. She'd write down their information, not to contact them. She was too sick for that, but to leave them for me. Throughout the journal were notes in the margins. Thomas Ferris, 68, wife died March 15th, married 42 years. Obituary mentioned he was a veteran. No children listed, probably alone. Hillary Moreno, 71, husband died January 3rd, married 49 years. Obituary said, died at home. She was probably his caregiver, like you are for me. She'll understand. Lenny Kim, 76, wife died April 22nd. Obituary mentioned Alzheimer's. He watched her forget him. He'll need someone who understands long goodbyes. 7 people. 7 strangers who'd lost their partners in the last year. 7 people Susie thought I needed to find. At the bottom of the last page, one final note. You've always struggled to ask for help, Samuel. You've always tried to carry everything alone. But grief like this will kill you if you face it by yourself. These people understand what you're feeling, and maybe you can help each other. Please try, for me. I sat at the kitchen table with that journal open in front of me for over an hour, trying to decide what to do. The idea of calling strangers to talk about grief felt impossible, intrusive. How do you call someone you've never met and say, "My dying wife found your name in an obituary and thought we should be friends"? But Susie had asked, and I'd never been able to say no to her, even now. So 3 days later, I picked up the phone and called the first name on the list. Thomas Ferris answered on the third ring. "Hello? Mr. Ferris? My name is Samuel Pine. You don't know me, but—" I paused, suddenly unsure how to explain. "This is going to sound strange, but my wife passed away 2 months ago, and before she died, she left me your name. She thought maybe we could talk about loss. About your wife found me in the obituary." His voice was flat. Statement, not question. "Yes, I know it's odd. When did she die?" "June 15th. "And you're calling me because—" "Because she asked me to. She thought I shouldn't be alone in this, and she thought maybe you shouldn't be either." There was a long silence. "Then what did you have in mind?" "I don't know. Coffee just to talk?" Another pause. "Okay, there's a diner on Morrison Street. You know it?" "I do. Saturday. 10 a.m. I'll be there." He hung up. I stared at the phone, not sure if that had gone well or badly, but at least he'd agreed to meet. Saturday morning, I arrived at the diner at 9:55. I didn't know how he looked like, but I saw a man sitting in a booth near the back, coffee in front of him, and assumed it might be Thomas. He was maybe late 60s, wearing a plain button-up shirt and looking like he hadn't slept well in months. I slid into the booth across from him. "Thomas Ferris. That's me. Thank you for meeting me." "Don't thank me yet. I don't know what we're supposed to talk about." "Neither do I." We sat in awkward silence for a minute. The waitress came, poured me coffee, left. Finally, Thomas said, "How long were you married?" 50 years. He nodded. 42 for me? She died in March. Heart attack. Sudden. I didn't get to say goodbye. "I'm sorry." "Everyone's sorry. Nobody knows what to do with me." He looked out the window. "My kids check on me. Friends call sometimes. But they all have lives. Spouses, they go home to someone. I go home to an empty house and her things still everywhere because I can't bring myself to move them. I understand that. Do you? My wife died of cancer. Slowly. I took care of her for 18 months. And when she died, I didn't know what to do with myself. Taking care of her had been my entire life. Without that, without her, I'm just here, existing." Thomas looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw recognition in his eyes, not pity. Understanding. "People who haven't lost a spouse don't get it," he said quietly. "They say things like, 'At least you had 50 good years,' or 'Time heals everything,' or 'She's in a better place.' And I want to scream. Because yes, I had 50 years, and that makes losing her worse, not better. And time just makes you better at pretending you're okay. And no, she's in a better place, but I want her here with me." "Yes." The word came out fiercer than I'd intended. "Exactly, yes." We sat there, two widowers in a diner, and for the first time since Susie died, I felt like someone actually understood. Over the next 2 weeks, I called the other 6 names on Susie's list. Some were hesitant. Some thought I was crazy. But eventually, all of them agreed to meet. Hillary Moreno, 71, whose husband had died of a stroke while she was feeding him breakfast. She'd been his caregiver for 3 years after his diagnosis. Lenny Kim, 76, whose wife had died after a decade-long battle with Alzheimer's. He'd watched her forget him piece by piece. Linda Foster, 69, whose husband took his life 6 months ago. She was drowning in guilt and what-ifs. James and Carol were both on the list separately. They'd lost spouses within weeks of each other and had met at a grief support group but stopped going because it felt too clinical. And Rachel, 66, whose husband had died in a car accident. 8 of us in total. 8 strangers, bound only by grief. I invited them all to my house on a Saturday afternoon in September. I didn't know what would happen. Didn't have a plan. Just Susie's note saying these people needed each other. That first meeting was painfully awkward. 8 people sitting in the living room, most of us over 70, none of us knowing what to say. I'd made coffee, put out cookies, felt ridiculous, like I was hosting a party where the theme was loss. "So," Thomas said finally. "We're the Dead Spouse Club?" Linda let out a startled laugh. "That's morbid, but accurate. I prefer the widows and widowers who don't know why we're here," Hillary said dryly. "Too long," Rachel said. "How about we skip the name and just talk about why we actually came?" Silence. Then Lenny spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "I came because I'm tired of being alone. My kids visit, but they have lives. Friends stopped calling after a few months because they don't know what to say anymore. I go days without speaking to another person, and when I do talk, I have to pretend I'm fine because people don't want to hear that I'm not." "Yes," Carol whispered. "God, yes." People ask, "How are you?" and they want you to say, "Fine." They don't actually want to know that you cried in the grocery store because you accidentally bought his favorite cereal, or that you still set the table for 2, or that some days you don't see the point of getting out of bed. "I talked to her," Thomas said, out loud, like she's still there. "I know she's not, but I tell her about my day, ask her opinion on things. And I know that's crazy." "It's not crazy," Linda interrupted. "I do the same thing." I hear his voice in my head telling me what to do. "Linda, don't forget to lock the back door." "Linda, did you take your medication?" Sometimes I answer out loud. My daughter heard me once and looked terrified. Around the room, heads were nodding. These people, strangers an hour ago, were recognizing themselves in each other. And slowly, carefully, we started to talk. Not about moving on, not about healing, just about surviving. About the loneliness that felt like a physical weight. About waking up and forgetting for 5 seconds that they were gone, then remembering and having your heart break all over again. About people who said, "Let me know if you need anything," but never actually called. About how exhausting it was to pretend you were okay when you weren't. We talked for 3 hours. By the time people started leaving, something had shifted. We weren't strangers anymore. We were people who understood. As Thomas was leaving, he stopped at the door. "Same time next week?" I looked around at the others, saw the same hope I felt reflected in their faces. Yes, same time next week. We met every Saturday after that, sometimes at my house, sometimes at someone else's. No agenda, no rules, just 8 people who understood each other. Gradually it became more than grief support. It became friendship. Hillary taught us all how to make her late husband's famous enchiladas. We spent an afternoon in her kitchen, chopping vegetables and arguing about the right amount of cumin. And for a few hours, we weren't widows and widowers. We were just people cooking together. Lenny brought his guitar one week, said he hadn't played since his wife died but was trying again. He played old songs, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and we sang along, off-key and unself-conscious. Rachel organized a trip to the art museum, said her husband had loved art, but she'd never wanted to go alone. So 6 of us went together, wandering through galleries, arguing about paintings we didn't understand. Laughing. Thomas organized a poker night. My wife hated when I played poker, but she's not here to stop me anymore. He said it like a joke, but we all heard the pain underneath. We played anyway, badly with penny stakes, making up rules as we went. We celebrated birthdays, brought silly gifts, made bad jokes, showed up when someone was having a hard day and just sat with them. And slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice, life started feeling less impossible. 6 months after our first meeting, I was getting ready for Saturday gathering when I realized something. I hadn't cried that week, not because I'd forgotten Susie, not because the grief was gone, but because I'd been too busy living to spend all my time mourning. I'd helped Hillary fix her broken fence on Tuesday, had lunch with Thomas on Wednesday, went to Rachel's granddaughter's piano recital on Thursday because Rachel was nervous about going alone. I'd had friends who understood that loving someone who died didn't mean you stopped living. That Saturday, as everyone arrived, I told them what I'd realized. "Susie knew," I said. "She knew I'd disappear into this house and stop living if I tried to grieve alone. So she found you, all of you. She found people who would understand, who would let me be sad but wouldn't let me give up. She saved my life by giving me you." Hillary's eyes were wet. "She saved all of us." "She did," Linda agreed. "Because we're all still here, still showing up, still trying, and I don't think any of us would be if we were doing this alone." Thomas raised his coffee mug. To Susie, who understood that grief shared is grief survived. To Susie, we echoed. My 75th birthday fell on a Thursday in March, 11 months after Susie died. I hadn't planned on celebrating. Birthdays without her felt wrong. She'd always been the one to make a fuss, bake a cake, insist we do something special even when I said I was too old for parties. But on Wednesday night, Hillary called. We're coming over tomorrow. 6 p.m., don't argue. Hillary, I don't need... Not negotiable, Samuel. It's your birthday. You're not spending it alone. She hung up before I could protest. Thursday at 6, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find all 7 of them on my porch. Hillary carrying a casserole, Thomas holding a store-bought cake, the others with various dishes and bottles of wine. Surprise, Rachel said. We're invading your house. I can see that. They filed in, taking over my kitchen like they'd done it 100 times before. Which honestly they had. My house had become the default gathering spot, partly because it was centrally located, partly because I had the most space. Within 20 minutes, my dining room table was covered with food. Hillary's enchiladas, Lenny's wife's japchae recipe he'd learned to make after she died, Linda's famous potato salad, Thomas's spring rolls. This is too much, I said, even as I helped set out plates. It's your birthday, Carol said firmly. We were just sitting down to eat when the doorbell rang again. I frowned. Are we expecting anyone else? I'll get it, Thomas said, standing. He opened the door and I heard a familiar voice. Hi, I'm looking for my dad. My son Jordan appeared in the doorway, my daughter Anna right behind him. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over my chair. Jordan, Anna, what are you doing here? Surprising you for your birthday, Anna said, coming in and hugging me. Jordan looked around the dining room at the 7 faces he didn't recognize, all watching this reunion with interest. Dad, you didn't tell us you'd made friends. There was something in his tone. Surprise, maybe concern, definitely confusion. Everyone, these are my kids, I said. Jordan and Anna. Jordan, Anna, this is... I gestured around the table. Thomas, Hillary, Linda, Rachel, Lenny, James, and Carol. We've been meeting for the past year. Nice to meet you, Anna said politely, but I could see questions in her eyes. Please, join us, Hillary said, already getting up to grab more plates. There's plenty of food. Dinner was slightly awkward at first. My kids were clearly trying to figure out who these people were and why I'd never mentioned them. The group was being polite, but I could feel them watching Jordan and Anna, assessing. It was Thomas who finally broke the tension. Your dad probably didn't tell you about us because he's private, he said to Jordan. But we've become pretty important to each other over the last year. We're all widows or widowers. We meet every week, help each other through the hard days. Oh, Anna said quietly. I didn't know Dad was... we call every week, but he never said that he was struggling. Linda finished gently. Most of us didn't tell our kids how hard it was either. Not because we don't love you, because we don't want to burden you. Jordan looked at me. Dad, you weren't burdening us. We wanted to help. I know that, I said. But you have your own lives, your own families. I didn't want to be the sad widower father you had to take care of. So instead you found other widowers to take care of each other? Anna's voice cracked slightly. Dad, why didn't you tell us you needed this? Because I didn't know I needed it, I admitted. Your mother knew. She's the one who found them for me. And then, because my kids deserved to understand, I told them about the journal, about the list Susie had left, about how she'd spent her final months making sure I wouldn't be alone. By the time I finished, Anna was crying. That's so, Mom, she whispered. Even dying, she was taking care of everyone. She was, Hillary agreed. And she was right. Your father needed us. We all needed each other. Has he told you about poker night? Thomas asked, clearly trying to lighten the mood. Poker night? Jordan looked at me with surprise. Every other Tuesday, Thomas said proudly. Your dad's terrible at it, but we keep inviting him back. I'm not terrible, I protested. I'm strategically conservative. You fold every hand where you don't have a pair, Rachel said. That's not strategy, that's fear. Everyone laughed, and I saw Jordan and Anna start to relax. After dinner, while we were eating the cake Thomas had brought, Jordan pulled me aside into the kitchen. Dad, I need to apologize. For what? For not realizing how alone you were. Anna and we thought you were okay. You always said you were fine when we called. We should have known better. Jordan, I was barely holding it together when I talked to you. I was very good at lying about being fine. You couldn't have known. But these people knew. They helped you. And we didn't even know they existed. That's not your fault. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. You live in Boston. Anna's in Seattle. You have your own lives, your own problems. I didn't want to add to that. Dad? Jordan's voice was firm. You're our father. You're never a burden. And I'm glad you have these people, I really am. But next time you're struggling with anything, please tell us. Let us help. I nodded, throat tight. I will. I promise. He hugged me then long and hard. Happy birthday, Dad. Mom would be really proud of you. Of this. He gestured toward the dining room where laughter was echoing. Building a new group of friends. She built it, I said. I just followed her instructions. You showed up. That's the hardest part. Back in the dining room, Anna was deep in conversation with Hillary and Linda about something that had them all laughing. Rachel was showing Lenny photos of her granddaughter on her phone. Thomas and James were arguing good-naturedly about the best way to make coffee. It looked like family, felt like family, and for the first time since Susie died, I felt something that wasn't grief or loneliness or just getting through the day. I felt grateful. Anna caught my eye and smiled, mouthed, I like them. I smiled back. Me too. Later, after everyone had left and it was just me and the kids cleaning up, Anna said, Dad, I'm sorry we haven't been here more. I know phone calls aren't the same as actually being present. You have lives, I said. Jobs, families. I understand that. We could visit more often, Jordan said. Maybe once a month instead of once every few months. I could bring the kids more often. They miss you. I'd like that. And Dad? Anna paused in drying a dish. Thank you for letting us meet your friends. For letting us see that you're not just surviving. You're actually living again? I'm trying to. Some days are easier than others, but having them helps. Having all of you helps. Jordan put his arm around my shoulders. Mom knew what she was doing, leaving you that list. She always did. We finished cleaning in comfortable silence, and for the first time in 11 months, my birthday didn't feel like just another day to get through. It felt like a celebration of survival, of community, of the fact that life continues even after devastating loss. A year after Susie died, I went to visit her grave. I hadn't been since the funeral. It had felt too hard, too final. But now I stood there looking at her headstone, and I wasn't alone. The whole group had come with me, not because I asked, but because they knew I needed them. I did what you asked, I told her, feeling foolish talking to a piece of granite but doing it anyway. I found them. And you were right.
They saved me.
We saved each other. We're going to keep meeting, Hillary said, standing next to me, every Saturday, for as long as we need to. Maybe forever. Probably forever, Thomas added. You're all stuck with me now. Could be worse, Rachel said. At least you're not boring. We stood there for a while. 8 people who'd been strangers but were now family. And I thought about Susie, about how she'd used her last months not just to prepare to die, but to prepare me to live without her. That's love, I realized. Real love. Not just the 50 years of marriage, the daily choosing of each other, but this, making sure the person you love won't be alone when you're gone, giving them what they need, even after you can't be there to give it. Yourself. She'd given me community, purpose, friendship, a reason to keep going. She'd given me 7 strangers who became my family. 2 years later, our group is still going strong. We've added 3 new members, people we met through mutual friends or at grief support groups who needed what we had. We don't just meet on Saturdays anymore. We text throughout the week, help each other with errands, celebrate holidays together. We've become each other's emergency contacts, each other's family. Last month, Thomas was hospitalized with pneumonia. Every single one of us took shifts sitting with him, brought him terrible homemade food because he complained the hospital stuff was worse, made him laugh when he felt like hell. When he came home, Hillary organized a rotation. Someone checked on him every day, brought groceries, made sure he was taking his medication. This is what family does, she said, when Thomas tried to protest that we were doing too much. And she was right. We were family, not by blood but by choice, by shared grief that had transformed into shared life. I still miss Susie. Every single day. There are still moments when I see something funny and turn to tell her before remembering she's not there. Still mornings when I wake up reaching for her side of the bed. The grief hasn't disappeared. I don't think it ever will. After 50 years together, losing her left a hole that nothing can fill, but I'm not drowning in it anymore. Because I have people who understand, who let me be sad on hard days but won't let me give up, who know that grief and joy can coexist, that you can miss someone desperately and still laugh, still live, still find meaning. Susie knew that. That's why she left me the list. She knew that I'd need people who understood, but I'd never ask for help. So she found them for me. 7 strangers who became my lifeline. And now, when new widows or widowers join our group, lost and drowning in fresh grief, I tell them what Hillary told me that first day. It doesn't stop hurting, but it stops hurting alone, and that makes all the difference. Have you ever discovered unexpected friendship during a difficult time? Share your story in the comments below. If this story about grief, community, and the power of chosen family touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more meaningful stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss our next inspiring tale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.